thanks for having me. My name is Mark Walter. I'm a business user of Power BI, and I mainly talk with business groups and networking groups of accountants and finance people that are using a lot of spreadsheets and maybe haven't heard of this product yet. I'm originally from Honolulu. I was born and raised in Hawaii until I was in high school, where I moved to Seattle. My work experience includes the city of Bellevue. So I worked in local government for about 5 years. Came down to Eugene, Oregon, worked for Peace Health for a number of years as an accountant. And now I'm at a distribution company called Industrial Finishes in Eugene, Oregon. I've always been the Excel guy at any job that I've been at. Love connecting to big data sets. I'm putting data into summaries and explaining them to executive teams and management. In 2013, I just happened to stumble on Power Pivot, and that's where I got introduced to DAX and the ability to create a data model. How many accountants do we have here, or finance function people? Okay. And are you all using Power BI to some degree? Okay, great. Great. So like I said, I work for Industrial Finishes. We are a wholesale distributor of automotive paints. We sell some wood products. Mainly, we just handle product through our warehouses that are nationwide. We operate in 12 states. We have about 38 territories or branches, and we do cool things out of warehouses like this and retail stores, where we help body shops and hobbyists paint their cars. We do a lot of business with body shops, big and small, all over the nation. This is one of our mascot cars that we take to auto shows. We also have an RV division where we work in-house in factories back east. We do technical assistance where we help them paint coaches like this. So we're selling the product, but we're also helping them on the technical side, on the product side. We work with the government, helping them paint their equipment, including jets like this. So we've got aerospace, auto body, and wood products, and RV. We've been around for 60 years, and one of our promises is that we're profit partners with our customers, and we believe that when they succeed, we succeed. And so we do that by using technology to help otherwise a blue-collar industry increase their operations, their efficiencies, and their profit. We've got a drying system that's just coming on now that's brand new technology. But something that we started promoting a few years ago are our ability to add value to our customers by coming out and explaining profitability, or their profitability to them in an easy to understand format. So we started this program where we started going out to our shops and handing them KPI reports, and they were on paper. And our salesmen had very limited success doing that. They would bring them a piece of paper or a report, and they just frankly just file it away or not have a very effective conversation over that. So when we got Power BI, we converted that to a KPI program like this that you see here, and the adoption and the acceptance with our external customers using Power BI has been excellent. But internal within our company, we've leveraged Power BI internally with our sales force, with our operations, with our finance group, and we've had some pretty great success with customizing scorecards and reports to distribute and share nationwide with all of our reps. It really gives us a standard way to have a conversation about our data. This is an example of a mixing bank report that we created. This basically helps to promote good inventory control. We have some instances where we've lost inventory because we're just not effectively tracking the inventory going through the stores. And something like this, being in front of every store every day and talked about on ops calls, has really helped curb that risk in our company. Auto paint is very expensive. I don't know if you guys have ever bought auto paint, but it's not like buying house paint. You can spend up to $300 per gallon for auto paint. So for someone working in a warehouse and having buddies come in and they're hobbyists, something like a can of paint is very attractive on the shelf. So that's the end of that PowerPoint. Now I want to flip over to the financial statement. One of the first things that we did in our group was try to get a better way of sharing our statement information. I don't know how you guys distribute your income statements monthly, or if you distribute them monthly, but we create a PDF version of our income statements monthly, and we distribute them to about 15 managers. And there was also a desire in our company that we'd get better engagement in looking at the statement. You would open the statement, you'd basically look at the top line in gross sales. A manager might look at something like their promotion and then look at the bottom line and just make sure that they're positive. But as we set goals with our statements and with our KPIs, we wanted a format that would be more interactive. And we knew that a lot of our managers had questions about their paper-based statements and just weren't calling in. Like, they were curious about a line, but not enough to call and have an accountant run a report and pull that information out. So initially, we created this in Power Pivot, and I don't even remember how I distributed it, but we'd have calls. So every month, I'd host a call with the manager, and they would call in, and and we'd do this on Power Pivot. It was wonderful when Power BI came out, because now that gave me the ability to publish this out and set RowLevel security for the different managers. I was sure that they were only seeing what they were or what they had access to see. And this is our basic income statement. Now, this gets used by our internal managers, but it also gets used by our accounting group. And so there's a lot going on here, but basically we've taken the income statement format with sales at the top, going through operating expenses and net income, and we formatted our chart in a dimension table to hold the sort order of an income statement. So this is our chart, and it comes out every day, or it refreshes every day. And I've got some dimension tables that will connect to this and hold our chart and make sure that the presentation is equivalent to what they're looking at on their paper-based, okay? Any questions on this format?
What's the source of all the data?
So we export CSVs out of an older ERP system. So that's another point that I wanted to share. I haven't seen all the ERP systems, and I don't know of their ability to display something like this. But our ERP is very rudimentary. It's very green screen. It's good for transactions and flipping between screens, but we don't have the capability to create a summary level like this, where we're able to show charts and trends and group information. Yes, sir.
So would that effectively be like your trial balance data?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So this is our GL. So this is the GL system that gets combined and created into the statement, but it's coming out of a data table that we house in a CSV. It's a CSV, but every month, to give you an idea of the size of our GL, every month, each month contains about 400,000 records. And so when we run our GL every day, we're running out about 2 years worth for comparable data, and it's coming out in one CSV. Okay? And then we update every night over that update of the CSV in Power BI, and it sorts and it updates it just like this. Yes, sir?
When you say like you have dimension tables that hold it together, is that because like in order to display like those rows, like it's not necessarily natural to drop like the measures on there, so you have its own like template of a balance sheet, income statement, assets, liabilities, or how like having like cost of goods sold in
Right.
natural hierarchy in the GL, or are you guys going to create like,
Right.
the measures?
Well, so your chart is set up, well, at least our chart is set up to be somewhat natural, where accounts are in line. You've got the 1 for assets, you've got the 2 for liabilities, 3 for revenue, but our GL codes didn't line up exactly with our presentation on our statement. So I would take out all of the GL accounts, and then I would assign them a presentation label, and then in a separate column, I would give it the sort order. So the hierarchy there, right? And then so when you connect that table to your GL by account, you can go into the dimension table and sort the display by the order of that order column. So 1 is on top, 2 is second, 3 is next, and it knows where to put each one of those labels.
And then does it expand down? Is that sort of
Yep. 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 So from here, it's almost exactly like a pivot table, right? So we did this in Excel. We did this with Power Pivot, but if we didn't have the ability to bring in 400,000 rows times however many months, there was no way that we'd be able to hold this in Excel. It would take too long to change. It would take forever to save, and it just wouldn't be effective in a conversation. Yes, sir.
I had a question. So and sometimes there's business reasons for it, but is there a reason that the updated headers haven't been switched over yet in the report?
The updated headers.
So the header on the top of that is the one that was changed last October. They redid the hierarchy controls and added like a bunch of new header features.
You mean the drill down?
Well, the drill down plus also additional tooltips and a bunch of other stuff. And sometimes people don't realize that there's a toggle for that. So I was curious because sometimes there's a business reason to keep the historical versus the new one that was switched over.
I'm just not aware of that.
Okay, yeah. If you want to afterwards, I can show you. There's like 50 new features that came out with the new header that actually has like a ton of additional stuff, and it's much easier to use.
Perfect. Yeah, I would love to see it.
Cool.
Okay. So we're on a fiscal year calendar. So our fiscal year is from July through June. So we've got fiscal year 2017 versus 2018 here. on our paper statements, we have a column that represents a percentage of any line compared to net sales. So that's what these gray columns are for. So regardless of the month or regardless of the year to date, when you're looking back and forth, you can look at the relative weight and change between types of expenses, okay? So now we're basically looking at a matrix visual, and it's got our groups in order, sales and cost of goods sold, and then it's got a line item under each of the groups, gross sales, and then we've got a variety of cost of goods. And you can essentially hold the piece of paper or hold the paper statement in front of you and go down each of the months lined up like this, and it matches exactly to the statement. I've taken a couple of our territories and I've blended them together. I've completely randomized all the numbers here, so the numbers in terms of this demo don't make sense with our actuals, but the functionality is all here. So when we give this to a manager, we expect them to go into a line that they're interested in, finding out more about, and if they're interested in looking at promotion, then they can scroll down here and expand that row, and voila, you get the next level. So our managers have gotten really good at drilling in. They drill down, they drill up, and you can open up each of these sublines and eventually get down to the transaction. Because generally what they're interested in is who spent it, who authorized it, who did we spend money for. So we've got a variety of these levels here.
How many total rows is your data set? You said each CSV is about 400,000. How many of those are you bringing in at once?
We're bringing in about 24 months at 400,000 per month.
What have you done to keep the performance up on this? So you had trouble with performance or with data file sizes with that many rows?
We really don't experience any lag.
Power BI can easily handle hundreds of millions of rows.
Yeah.
Before it hits any performance issue.
Yeah.
Compared to like Power Pivot.
Yeah. So I used Power Pivot for about a year, and it got to a point where Power Pivot would start to slow down, and I was starting to experience some crashing, and just in time this came out, and going from Power Pivot to Power BI, not only because you could share it like this, but the program is so solid, it's so fast, and it's never crashed. So that there's a great advantage to
Got a knock on
housing
wood
that
when
there.
you say that.
Sorry?
You got a knock on wood when you say that.
Yeah.
Right.
Never had a crash.
Yeah.
It turned off once, but I'm not sure if I hit the wrong button.
How do you have it deployed to your consumers?
So yeah, so we have this in a work group. We're basically publishing this to the web through Power BI, through the service, and then we.
Publish to the web as in that Power BI service function, you're just publishing to the Power BI service.
Right.
That is the element.
Right, yeah. So the Power BI service, so when people say Power BI service, they're talking logging in to the cloud, logging into the Power BI website. So we publish this to the service up in the cloud, and then we establish roles up front on the desktop program on each file, and then up in the service, up on the web, we can go into those roles and assign specific users or viewers to that information. So I make sure that I have a role for someone in Oregon. I have a role for someone in Washington State. And then when I log in, after I publish it the first time, I go in and say, Bob's in Washington, Bob can see Washington, Rob can see Oregon, etc. And then that's the only time I have to set that up. And then everything I publish gets automatically divvied up between those users in their cloud accounts
RowLevel security.
using RowLevel security.
With premium or pro?
We use pro licenses, so it's $10 a month. One thing I like about that security level is that when you assign that for one person, it makes you assign it for every additional person. So I can't accidentally share the whole thing with you. You'll see gray X's and you'll call me and go, hey, it's not working. And I go, oh, I haven't given you a role yet.
How do you expect to load the file with it?
That's a great question. So this is our biggest data set. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour for us to run this 24-month file every night. And we run it about midnight. And we have the updates happening about 5 to 7 a.m. every morning. So we run that CSV and it comes out into our network. It's just a file that sits there. And then the Power BI file that's now housed up in the service knows where to reference those files, and it comes down every night and grabs the updates out of that CSV, or those CSVs, right, that are used to make that model. Yes?
The graph, the time graph, what is that? I can't see the title in the bottom right.
In the bottom right, it says fiscal year 2017, 2018, and we basically keep that graph there. So if someone wanted to understand what was behind the promotion line and see a trend, because they didn't want to scroll left and right and look at all the numbers, they can highlight promotion there. They can click on that. This graph used to be larger before we had other requests to put other boxes in here. But what you can do is highlight promotion and then go to expand, and it'll show you a larger version of that graph. It just shows you trend over time and year over year.
Would it be possible to see the relationship view? Just curious, like what tables are connected.
Sure. Wow, that changed.
Yeah, I noticed occasionally with updates it like resets.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating when you spend so long. It shouldn't do it anymore when you have now like the
So,
new
yeah,
perspectives.
If you make your own new tab.
Exactly.
If you're on, do you know about that deal with Doc? You can,
I saw
if you make a
I
tab,
saw that on the
tab here,
update. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
It's so helpful for complex models because you can say if you have more than one fact table, for example.
Yeah.
And you make a fact table that is just about that topic and add the
Yeah.
related tables, and then you
Yeah.
make another tab.
Yeah.
It's really helpful, but
And-
the most helpful thing is that it won't reorient every time you open.
Do I have to use a tab to do that? To get
I don't know if it's a bug or a feature, but my experience has been with the all tables default, it will rearrange them to whatever logical order it thinks. But if you make a custom one and
It doesn't.
force a second one, I've never seen this reset happen with additional tabs at the bottom. So you can create your own table, like-
With additional tabs.
Yeah, yeah, so
So
all
the
tables
secret
have-
is you got to create a tab.
Exactly. Even if you just create one, rearrange it with everything, and just call it like my view, and it should still
Like have
stay
an
alive.
empty tab.
Exactly. Yeah. Just basically reproduce this.
Click on it,
rename it to
and then,
something.
Yeah.
and then for people who haven't used this, go ahead and open your field well over there and drag one of your fact tables in there.
Yeah.
Or just click auto arrange.
Well,
Well, that takes everything.
hang on a second, just drag a fact table in there. And now, drag it up, and then on the ellipsis, do the add related tables.
Here.
Or you
Yep.
just right click.
So it grabs everything that has a direct connection to.
Yeah. And it kind of tries to be Starsky
It does.
Well, that's great to know because I'm a fan of putting the fact table, and by fact table we mean your transaction table, right? A lot of people put the fact table or the transaction table on the bottom, and then they put your dimension tables or your reference tables, like your calendar table. I talked about the chart table. You put them above, and the idea is that when you draw relationships between them, then you can visually see which fields and which information flow into your fact table. Okay, so that's something that I do every time I create a model, and then I save, I close, I go back into it. In the previous versions, you'd risk it scrambling all those tables, and then you just leave it like that.
This will preserve the latest out, whatever you prefer. It persists.
Yeah.
The one annoyance though is it's not like they're all just standard squares anymore. It elongates some of them more than others, and I kind of wish it would just start from the same size for everything and let me choose to make them longer. There's no default size anymore for the actual table height.
But does it keep the size?
It does keep the size, but I'm OCD enough that I want them all the same size, kind of.
Yeah.
And there's no snap to each other option
Yeah.
to get them pixel
Yeah.
perfect.
So any questions on modeling or table layouts?
That's good though. It's kind of it helps show the filters and just relationships.
Yeah. So
Talk to me offline just as a one mention. I'm curious why you use bidirectional relationships. If you want to talk to me later about that.
Sure. Generally, that's because when I filter things, I want the slicers to compact.
Yeah, I was about to say talk to me later. But this is a better way to do it than that, because that can potentially lead to some ambiguity with data.
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah, sure. Okay. All right.
Free consulting. Who doesn't?
Hey, yeah. So I'm done. We're just going to talk. This is what I came for. All right. So any questions about adopting a format like this? Yep.
Bringing in kind of, I don't even know if it's a category or a subcategory or what you might call it, probably in calculated categories such as GP, into this same format. Have you attempted that, or does this have that? Like in the income statement format where we would see sales, cost of goods, and then like a GP line typically.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that in here or no?
It's not. If I were to do GP, what I've done in the past is down here, I'd create another matrix or another table like this, and create that gross margin right there. But you're absolutely right, because when you present it like this, especially in our industry, gross profit is very important. And I just recently tweaked my measure for the percentages here, because you'll notice that when you get to the bottom, our gross margin isn't 4 or 5%. That's the percentage it is to net sales. If anything, that should be inverted to represent our gross margin. So just recently in our live file, I've changed my measure to recognize when it's on that subtotal line for gross margin, and I've created a measure to invert that number when it hits that row. Okay.
That is coming in as a column percentage. Is that correct?
It's coming in as a ratio of cost to net sales.
Right.
So when I get down to total cost, over 100% of net sales, I'm really interested in what the inverse is, and that would give me my gross margin. My gross margin percentage. But dollar-wise, I don't know how to embed that on a separate subtotal line, because that is its own line. Any suggestions on creating a margin dollar line within a matrix?
One thing that we've done is, we have we have departments where they wanted to see financial data, but they also wanted to see like FTE, full-time employees, things that just weren't natural. There was you can create this template, like in Excel, where you map it out, and then you have an index column, and then you basically write a switch measure that has all of the DAX measures that go down that column line. So you drop one measure at the top, and it builds in all the values.
Okay.
But you can't you kind of run into issues drilling down on the rows because it's kind of a static row that you're hiding.
Right.
So there's pluses and minuses.
One, you often, especially if you're showing like percentages in dollars in the same column, then you basically have to use the format function to convert everything to text.
Yeah,
So you can't
yeah.
reference that anywhere else. It's doable, but it's one of those like scenario of, do you want to spend 20 hours to get it
Right.
exactly how you want it?
Right.
Or do you want something 80% that will take 2 hours?
Right.
Yeah, it's a kind of a diminishing return thing, but it is possible. It's just kind of a headache to build.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to learn how to crack inserting a calculated row into a matrix that's just pulling from one table.
I mean, I've essentially done similar. I had a disconnected table with a row for every item I wanted, and then a switch statement that checked for whatever the row ID was, and based off of the row, for anything you wanted, it would return, one of any calculation, and then from there was like subcategory and stuff below it that could be expanded out that would filter it, because that one table was just disconnected. But it takes a lot of time to build it. And it's, I don't particularly enjoy it because it's just a house of cards and a lot of situations.
Well, and then we have like software that could spit out the same report.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
there are better solutions sometimes when they're trying to get that custom.
What about the idea of just key numbers, that, cards, somewhere on the page
Yeah,
that are
right.
just the key numbers.
Right.
People
So if it was that important, what I would do is replicate this, or I'd copy this format and create a smaller version of it down here, and just have that be the margin. Margin is extremely important to us, so that dollar and that percentage is very important. I can get the percentage to work, but I would put the margin dollars down below and save. If you don't want to do the math, then just look below.
Stump the room.
Yes, sir.
Why did you choose to import your data from the CSV file rather than going directly to the
Right. We don't. So we deal with a local ERP vendor up in Seattle, up in Kirkland, and my understanding is that they don't use SQL, and our data with them isn't in a tabular format. So it'd be very hard for us to connect to their data, and they prefer just spinning it out in CSVs, and yeah, and honestly, it's worked well for us. It's worked really well for us. We are talking. So one of the things that we're bumping up against now is that our managers want to see intraday information, and it, we used to publish this stuff once a month, and now we're doing it daily. Well, now that's not enough. We desire to see intraday sales and GL activity. So we're talking about ways that we can keep that CSV deal going, but update our financial information every 2 hours without having to run an hour refresh. So we're talking about things like, let's let the large CSV that updates overnight persist and refresh every night for the 24 months, and then let's tag on a marginal table that just runs every day that current day. Just every 2 hours, it just accumulates transactions. And then we take those CSVs, we put them in a folder, and just let the folder mash that information up. So I'm not sure everyone uses that function or is aware of that, but if you get monthly files, say from an external provider like a health provider, you can stack those all up in a folder, and as long as they're formatted, the columns are the same and the tab names are the same, when you dump that file into each of those different files, when you go and get data, you can choose to get it from a folder rather than a file, and in the query in the background, it basically brings them in as one table.
It's one of my favorite features.
I love it. Yeah.
Can you do a
How much you're like driving adoption for this? I mean, like at the very beginning, like you just approach your manager and say, hey, I've worked with Power Pivot, there's a tool out, and I think it's easier.
Yeah.
Or how
Yeah.
you kind of start with like a prototype.
So back in the day, I guess, well, this is what we experienced. We're in a medium-sized company. We're in a small to medium-sized company. So you can run into pushback from IT. We definitely did. They downloaded Power Pivot for me, the 64-bit version. I created some models. I showed the executive team and our president, and it was because they were so supportive of how powerful that tool was that they kind of opened that up with our IT. we're in a blue collar industry. I mean, we've got guys working for us that have been there for 20 and 30 years that were painting cars back in the day, and now they're out selling and they're managing. They barely text, right? And so we've had quite the journey of adoption, especially with field sales, in getting them to open their Power BI, let alone have a conversation with our customers. So like I said in our PowerPoint, we've got a whole effort where we do KPI scorecards, and we send them out to our customers, right? Our body shop customers are mom and pops. They're really small business, and we're showing them profitability and transparency with what they're buying from us like they've never seen before. So of course they all want it. Well, that has to come with a conversation. So we've really put a push on not only can we provide you data, not only is the data important, but the dialogue when you're talking to a client or someone who sings this for the first time, they love the idea, but if the dialogue's not accompanying it, then we have very low adoption outside of our company.
How do you do that dialogue? Do you one-on-one, or how do you, is that you pick up the phone, or you go there, or how does it work?
Well, so when we rolled that program out, I'd go to all the states and I'd sit with the owner, I would demo it, and I'd be modeling for the salesperson what a dialogue looks like. And you're really only hitting on 10 things, right? But there are 10 things that our competitors aren't able to provide them in an interactive way. So I model that with them, and we try to give them incentives to do that. It's been very difficult, but what we're finding is that our industry is changing, and our customers are cluing in to asking for added value services like this. So now when my phone rings and they want a dashboard, it's 60% because the customer caught wind of something and they're asking their salesman to provide it. So.
So is that just like a one-time meeting with each of these, like you said, each of the different states?
Yeah.
Or is it continual, and like do you do over, remote meetings too?
Yeah. So we're getting off topic. I hope you guys don't mind, but we're getting into adoption and things like that. We would encourage a regular conversation, and with body shops like this that are looking at ratios as KPIs, all they know is red is bad and green is good, right? But it's amazing when you run into an owner and this is their livelihood and they're trying to compete with a larger shop. Just the awareness of knowing what the industry average is and how they measure up kind of lights a fire under them, and then they may take that to their painter and say, hey, so I met with so and so and that number's yellow, it's not green. Any idea why that KPI is so low? And you wouldn't believe the number of stories where just that has happened, and then in the following 2 months that number turns green. So now we're just talking about the effect of data and a dialogue and keeping a scoreboard, right? So we're going into businesses that have been playing a game for maybe 20 or 30 years without a scoreboard. They've got their P&L, but no one's huddling around the P&L to look at how they did. But you hand them something like a scoreboard that they can click and see progress through the months, and now they're interested, and now change happens.
So with those customers, like this is a very tabular kind of quote, with those customers, are you being much more visual in terms of what that looks like? Because I'm curious about your user base. You described them as some of them barely know how to text, and I can see that could either mean that they adopt on visualization, or maybe that they just want to stick with something that looks much more Excel-like because they're more comfortable in that environment.
Yeah. Well, the issue is, the first issue is that if they come in with a PDF report on paper or they come in with Excel to these customers, the customers are automatically not numbers people.
Right.
And we need them to share their numbers with us to create KPIs, right? We have the cost side, they have their production side. And until we walked in with a tool like this and were able to show them bells and whistles and colors, they weren't sharing numbers. But you show them a demo of what they could see and where they could go, and all of a sudden they're numbers people. And they give you access to their production numbers. So I'll show you briefly. I've got a little bit of time. So this is our demo dashboard. We use this often in front of new, like prospect customers or new customers that don't have this tool yet. And basically during a demo, and it can be on the phone or it can be in person. And I thought, well, I've just got to be there, right? I mean, we've got to be there to interact and make certain points. Well, I couldn't constantly travel. My job is an accountant, right? I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a business development person. And we started doing these over the phone, and I'd share my screen like this. Those demos were just as effective. So basically, we show them down here that you've got a constant monitoring of your spend with us by product type. So these are body shops, right? So they're buying color, clear, activator, primer. And so they like the ability to track their costs and what we're billing them. There's a lot of mistrust in our industry as to if they're getting their deal consistently. So they like that. And then up here on this little headline table, I'm connecting to their production numbers. And when they give them to us, we're basically having them put them into a cloud Excel sheet. And that seems to be working well with them. I share it with them in their Power BI Service Cloud account. They go to OneDrive and just enter in their revenue and their paint hours. And they wait for this to update. And when they do, we bring it up to what they spent in paint and body shop. And then we just start producing these KPIs here. If I blow this up, you'll get an idea as to what a lagging shop looks like down there and what a high achieving shop looks like here. And again, this is just a demo, but in reality, we've had a number of shops that have moved from this sort of looking row to something like this, where in our industry, when we're talking paint and materials, a customer like this versus a customer like this could be making 20 extra points in gross margin. So.
Is that 20% as in 20%, or is that 20 points as in 2%?
And they're making an additional 20% margin.
Have you found issues with people, doing the data entry wrong with that solution you mentioned?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Does that hurt the adoption or hurt their trust of the reports and numbers, or is it usually a pretty good?
Well, it makes them aware of maybe some accounting deficiencies on their end, and we also offer services where we go in and most body shops use the same ERP program, and so we go in there and help them understand their estimates and the importance of keeping clean data.
Well, we're running right up against some time. Thanks, Mark, for awesome presentation.
Thank you.